What drifted through the open window was the sound of laughter, her husband and mother-in-law sharing a private joke. But the moment she heard what they were laughing about, something inside her quietly shattered. His ex-wife. The wrong name for their daughter. And then, another daughter, one she had never even known about. In that instant, she realized the truth. They were no longer a family. They hadn't been for some time. But she didn't cry. Instead, she began to plan. On her daughter's birthday, she would bring everything into the light. That surprise would be the quiet beginning of her revenge. A floor polisher hummed quietly down the dim hospital hallway. Madeline Hampton, a night shift cleaner, worked in silence, far from the break room where her coworkers laughed and chatted. "Working late again, Miss Hampton?" "Yes, just picking up some extra hours for my daughter's tuition." She smiled, but the expression never reached her eyes. Her coworkers knew little about her home life. She never brought it up. At 4 a.m., Madeline returned home with heavy steps. As she opened the front door, a glass sat on the living room table. The scent of leftover whiskey lingered in the air. Her husband, Bradley, had been drinking late again. "Welcome home, Mommy." 6-year-old Olivia peeked out from the hallway. Madeline frowned, her daughter should have been asleep. "What's wrong? Why are you up?" "I had a scary dream." Madeline gathered Olivia in her arms and carried her back to bed. Drawings of their family were scattered across the blanket, Daddy, Mommy, and herself. All smiling. But something felt off. Bradley's face was drawn much larger, while Madeline's and Olivia's were small and pushed to the corners. "It's a lovely picture. I want to show it to Daddy." "Tomorrow, sweetheart. Let's sleep for now." After tucking her daughter in, Madeline returned to her room. Bradley was already fast asleep. She lay beside him, careful not to disturb him. He didn't stir. At breakfast, Olivia tried to show her drawing to Bradley. "Daddy, look. I drew our family." Without lifting his eyes from his phone, he said, "Yeah, that's nice." He never once looked at the picture. Madeline saw Olivia's smile fade, and her chest tightened with quiet pain. "Brad, could you at least look at it properly? I'm checking a work email right now." At that moment, the doorbell rang. "Oh, good morning." With a refined voice and poised presence, Veronica Hampton, Bradley's mother, stepped into view. She wore a designer suit that clashed starkly with the modest kitchen around her. "Mom, you didn't say you were coming," Bradley said, suddenly changing his tone and standing to kiss her cheek. It was a sudden decision. "I just felt like seeing Olivia," Veronica replied, though her eyes weren't on her granddaughter, they were on the sink, where last night's dishes still sat. "My, you're always so busy," she sighed softly and turned to Madeline. "For someone whose job is cleaning, your house is quite the opposite." Madeline opened her mouth, but Bradley cut in. "Want some coffee, Mom? I'll make it." "Thank you, darling." Veronica gently stroked Olivia's hair and started to say, "Oh, this outfit," but quickly corrected herself. "It's cute." Still, her eyes betrayed a quiet disapproval. Olivia silently slid her drawing under the table. "Mom?" Olivia whispered as Madeline prepared lunch. "Daddy and Grandma said it's easier when you're not around." Madeline's hand froze for a second. "When did you hear that?" "Just now. They were talking in the garden." By sunset, Veronica had left. After tucking Olivia into bed, Madeline sat with Bradley in the living room. "Your mother's been coming by a lot lately. She just wants to see Olivia." "Really? What were you two talking about out there?" Bradley's face suddenly tensed with irritation. "Are you spying on me now?" "It was nothing important. We just had a casual chat together." That night, Madeline stood at the kitchen window, staring into the backyard. Veronica's words echoed in her mind. Someone whose job is cleaning. And Olivia's innocent report. It's easier when you're not around. A cold, heavy stillness spread through her chest. Madeline looked at her own reflection in the window, a tired face, but eyes that still held a fierce, unwavering light. The next weekend, despite working the night shift, Madeline made special pancakes for Olivia. But in the living room, Bradley and Veronica were speaking in hushed tones. As Madeline approached, their conversation abruptly shifted. "Mommy, pancakes." Olivia cheered, but Veronica quickly shifted the mood. "Sweet things like this in the morning? Aren't you worried about Olivia's teeth?" Madeline exhaled slowly. "Sometimes a special breakfast is exactly what we need." "Bradley, you should cut back on sugar too. Appearances matter in sales, you know." Bradley pushed the plate of pancakes aside and said, "Yeah, you're right." Only Olivia continued eating with joy. Madeline watched the scene in silence, sensing that something inside their family was quietly starting to crack. The fractures were small, not yet visible to the eye, but undeniably present. That evening, Olivia came home from school and tried to stick a new drawing on the refrigerator when Veronica showed up again. She didn't speak to Madeline, but directly to Olivia. "Why don't you come to Grandma's this Sunday? I want to introduce you to a lovely friend." "Who?" Olivia asked. "A girl your age. Very well-mannered, and she takes ballet lessons too." From the corner of the kitchen, Madeline listened quietly. Each of Veronica's words seemed to carry another meaning. Was Olivia not well-mannered in her eyes? The unspoken question hung in the air. That night, Madeline paused outside Olivia's room. Her daughter was quietly drawing alone. Madeline said nothing and simply observed. She noticed that the way Olivia drew their family had changed. Her father's figure had been pushed to the edge of the page, drawn much smaller now, while a large woman had taken center stage. Veronica, perhaps. Madeline returned to her room in silence and looked up at the night sky through the window. Something was changing. Something was breaking. And she knew, this time, she couldn't look away. One mid-September day, with autumn deepening in the air, a parent-teacher meeting was held at Olivia's school. Madeline, though exhausted, sat in the front row, attentively listening to the teacher's remarks. Bradley had said he was too busy with work and didn't attend. "Mrs. Hampton, do you have a moment after the meeting?" At the end of the session, Olivia's homeroom teacher, Mr. Nathaniel Frost, addressed Madeline. He was a calm-spoken man with a gentle demeanor. Madeline tensed slightly. "Is there a problem?" Once they were alone in the classroom, Nathaniel laid out several of Olivia's drawings. "She's very talented, especially in how she expresses emotion. It's remarkable." He pointed to one drawing in particular, a small girl standing under a massive rain cloud. "Lately, I've noticed a change in her. She's become quieter than before." Madeline caught her breath. "She's been a little withdrawn at home too." Choosing his words carefully, Nathaniel continued. "If there's anything you're concerned about, please know you can speak with me anytime." Sensitive children like Olivia tend to feel the impact of changes around them more strongly. When Madeline returned home, an unexpected scene awaited her. In the living room, Veronica sat beside Bradley, flipping through an old photo album. "Oh, you're back," Veronica said, lifting her head. "How was the meeting?" "No issues," Madeline replied briefly. "Bradley, what about work?" "I got off early," he answered, avoiding her gaze. "Mom brought some old photos, so we were going through them." As Madeline stepped closer, she saw pictures of a young Bradley and his family. There wasn't a single photo of her and Bradley as a married couple. "Where's our wedding photo?" Madeline asked. Veronica answered lightly. Oh, this is an old album, it doesn't include that. That night, watching Olivia's sleeping face, Madeline remembered Mr. Frost's words. Children like Olivia are especially affected by changes around them. It was true. The next morning, as Madeline was preparing Olivia's lunch, Bradley called out from the living room while scrolling through his phone. Mom says she wants to take Olivia this weekend. Where to? She wants her to spend time with a friend's granddaughter. There's a good ballet school nearby, they might visit it. Madeline set the knife down. Did you ask Olivia? Is she even interested in ballet? Bradley shrugged. She's a kid. Sometimes they only know what they like after trying. But Olivia loves drawing. Don't you think we should respect what she wants? There you go again, always pushing back, Bradley said, irritation creeping into his voice. Mom's just thinking about what's best for Olivia. She understands her needs better than you do. The words hit Madeline like a blade to the chest. On Saturday afternoon, Bradley and Veronica left with Olivia. Madeline was alone in the house. After a moment of hesitation, she stepped into Olivia's room. From under the bed, she pulled out a small sketchbook. On the cover, in crayon, were the words, "Don't look." Madeline felt a pang of guilt, but opened it anyway. The first pages were filled with cheerful family scenes. But as she flipped further, the colors darkened. The final page showed a tiny girl, drawn between looming adult figures. Dark shadows encircled her. Madeline's hand trembled. This was Olivia's inner world. They returned after sunset. Olivia looked tired, but Veronica was in high spirits. She was such a good girl. She got along wonderfully with a girl named Lila. Did you have fun? Madeline asked Olivia. Olivia gave only a small nod. That night, while helping Olivia bathe, Madeline asked, "Do you think you'll enjoy ballet?" Olivia shook her head. But Grandma said, "Good girls don't say they don't like things." Madeline swallowed hard. What matters most is doing what you truly love. A few days later, on her way home from a night shift, Madeline paused in front of a small art supply store. After a moment, she stepped inside and bought a set of quality paints and drawing paper. Money was tight, but for Olivia, it felt like the right investment. "I bought this for you." Olivia's eyes lit up. She immediately began painting at the kitchen table, and as Madeline watched her daughter work, she smiled, for the first time in weeks, a genuine smile. But that peaceful moment didn't last. "What the hell is this mess?" Bradley's shout echoed through the house. Olivia had accidentally spilled paint on the floor. "We can wipe it up right away," Madeline began, but Bradley cut her off. "Why did you buy something this expensive? That's such a waste." "Because Olivia loves it. Loving something doesn't mean she gets everything she wants." In a burst of rage, he grabbed the artwork and supplies off the table and shouted, "I don't even want to look at this garbage drawing." He tore the paper to pieces. Olivia's scream rang out. "Stop it!" Madeline shouted, but it was too late. Shredded pieces of her daughter's painting littered the floor. Olivia ran to her room, sobbing. That night, a heavy silence hung over the house. In Olivia's room, Madeline held her close and whispered, "It's okay. We'll draw again. Together." The next morning, Bradley left earlier than usual. He didn't say sorry. That evening, an unexpected visitor came to the door. Mr. Frost. Standing on the doorstep was Olivia's teacher. In his hands was a framed drawing, Olivia's. "I hope I'm not intruding. This is something Olivia made at school. It's been selected for display, and I thought your family should see it." Madeline, surprised, welcomed him in. "She has incredible talent," Nathaniel said sincerely. "Especially in the way she expresses emotion." At that moment, Olivia returned home from school. When she saw her teacher, a rare smile spread across her face. Mr. Frost. Hey there, Olivia. I brought your drawing. It'll be featured in the school exhibition. Her eyes sparkled. But then, the front door opened again. Veronica stepped in, holding a ballet costume. Olivia, look what Lila's mom gave you. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Nathaniel. Oh. You have a guest? He's Olivia's teacher, Madeline explained. Her artwork was selected for the school exhibition. Artwork? Veronica raised an eyebrow. But Olivia's starting ballet. She'll be in the same class as Lila. What? Madeline blinked. No one told me. Bradley gave his permission. That night, a heated argument erupted between Madeline and Bradley. Why would you make that decision without even talking to me? Mom says that teachers always favoring Olivia. What are you talking about? Mr. Frost just sees her talent for what it is. Mom says those drawings aren't even good. No way, that's talent. Madeline froze. It was the same line he'd used when he tore Olivia's drawing. Do you really believe that? Or are you just repeating what your mother says? Bradley's face twisted. I'm sick of it, of you always bad-mouthing my mom. Maybe it's time we let her handle Olivia's education. The words cut deeper than Madeline had expected. The next day, Madeline returned from her night shift to find a note on the living room table. Mom isn't feeling well. I'll be staying at her place for a while. Bradley. She stared at the message in disbelief. Her husband had left her and their daughter to live with his mother. From behind her came a fragile voice. When is Daddy coming back? Madeline turned around and saw Olivia standing in the doorway. She couldn't speak. Bradley's note was still clutched in her hand. That afternoon, Madeline casually opened Olivia's smartphone. She scrolled through the social media and then froze. A new post had been uploaded from Veronica's account. It showed a photo of Bradley, Veronica, and a young girl who looked strikingly like Olivia, but wasn't her. The hashtags read, #family, #myangel, #newbeginning. With trembling hands, Madeline set the phone down. Then she noticed the date the photo had been taken. On a chilly morning in early October, with just 3 weeks left until Olivia's birthday, Madeline made a decision. She couldn't let things continue as they were. After dropping her daughter off at school, she drove toward Veronica's grand home. Set in an upscale neighborhood, Veronica's house stood in stark contrast to Madeline's modest apartment, radiating authority and wealth. Madeline pulled over to the curb and sat still, taking deep breaths. She had no intention of confronting anyone. She simply wanted to speak with her husband and bring some sense of closure. But just as she reached for the door handle, a voice floated out from an open window. It was one of the garden-facing windows. Honestly, that girl doesn't look like you at all. It was Veronica's voice. Madeline froze. You think so? I mean, I thought the shape of her eyes looked kind of similar, came Bradley's reply. Her eyes? Where? Honestly, Olivia, do you even know if she's really your daughter? Madeline stopped breathing. Mom, what are you saying? Bradley's voice was laced with unease. I'm joking. Just joking, Veronica laughed. Still, she needs to go in a different direction. Ballet has a future, unlike art. It'll make her more refined. Yeah, maybe, Bradley answered hesitantly. But I still think Sophia's a sweet kid. Sophia? Veronica's voice turned sharp. You're doing it again. Her name is Olivia. She's not that mistake you had with your ex-wife. Silence followed. Sorry. I get confused sometimes. Don't worry, Veronica replied calmly. Allison, no, Madeline, is no longer needed. Not for you, not for Olivia. We'll raise her ourselves. She'll turn out so much better. Mom, I haven't decided on a divorce yet. Why not? You already moved in here. You know what that means, don't you? Madeline trembled inside the car. Sophia, who was she? A daughter from a previous marriage? Did Bradley have another family? Don't worry. I've already applied for the child benefits under Olivia's name. I even changed the address. Mom, It's fine. Legally, she still has custody, but the courts favor whoever's doing the actual parenting. Your income alone won't cut it. Alarms blared inside Madeline's head. Veronica had fraudulently filed for child support. It's time she gave up that house, too. A janitor like her belongs in a cheap apartment. The moment those words reached her ears, something inside Madeline collapsed. She drove off as if fleeing the scene. Stopping at the side of the road, tears blurred her vision. She pounded the steering wheel as waves of anger, sorrow, and betrayal crashed over her. No, this isn't. She whispered to herself, willing her heart to steady. She had to be strong. For Olivia. Madeline collapsed to the floor the moment she stepped through the front door. Now that everything was out in the open, she didn't know what to do. Divorce? Go to the police? Either choice might hurt Olivia. After sitting motionless for some time, Madeline stood and walked into the kitchen. She pulled a small notebook from a drawer, her hands trembling. Gripping a pen, she began to write. Evidence. Plan. Steps. Something inside her had shifted. The fear and sadness still lingered, but now they were pushed aside by a calm, focused resolve. That night, after Olivia had fallen asleep, Madeline sat alone in the living room. Her phone lay on the table in front of her. She took a deep breath and called Bradley. Hello? Bradley's voice was guarded. I want to talk about Olivia's birthday, Madeline said, her voice surprisingly steady. Oh, well. Mom's handling that. I'm not talking to your mother. I want to talk to you. Okay. What is it? Did you know Olivia was selected for the school exhibition? Mr. Frost says she has real talent. That again? Bradley cut her off. Mom says art won't help her future. But Olivia loves to draw. Liking something and being useful in life aren't the same thing. Then what about ballet? Is that something she loves, or is it just useful? Silence. Bradley, are you coming home for Olivia's birthday? She really wants to see you. More silence. I don't know. Mom's not feeling well. Is that true? Or are you just running away from us? What did you say? Bradley's voice turned sharp. I saw the post on social media. You, your mother, and that girl. #new beginning. Really? That was just. No more lies. Who is Sophia? She heard a sharp inhale on the other end of the line. How did you? That's not what matters. What are you going to do about Olivia? She's your daughter. Your real daughter. I know, Bradley replied, his voice tinged with guilt. It's just complicated. Complicated? Madeline's voice turned cold. Is fraudulently applying for child benefits complicated? What? No, that was Mom. Just tell me. Are you coming to her birthday or not? I'll be there. Madeline ended the call. Her hands trembled. She took a deep breath and reopened her notebook. She added a new line to her birthday plan. Recording. Evidence. Truth in public. The next morning, after dropping Olivia off at school, Madeline stopped by a small electronics store. She purchased a compact voice recorder. Then, she visited a legal aid clinic to ask about fraudulent benefits claims and custody rights. In your case, documentation will be key, the lawyer said. Especially if you can prove the misuse of public assistance. From there, Madeline went straight to the municipal welfare office. She requested the official child benefit records for Olivia. As she feared, the recipient's address had been changed to Veronica's. She made a copy of the application form and tucked it securely into her pocket. She knew it would be decisive. On her way home, she stopped by the school to speak with Mr. Frost. "If there's anything I can do to help," he said, his tone earnest. "Actually, I'd like to throw a small party for Olivia's birthday. Would it be possible to use one of the classrooms?" Nathaniel looked slightly surprised, but then smiled warmly. "Of course. Why not combine it with the exhibition? We could center the decorations around Olivia's artwork." "That would be wonderful." For the first time, real hope lit up in Madeline's eyes. Back home, she found a new drawing Olivia had brought back from school. The colors were brighter than before. It depicted a teacher holding hands with a young girl. Madeline guessed it was Olivia herself. As she stared at the drawing, tears welled up in her eyes. She would do anything to protect this child. That night, after Olivia had gone to sleep, Madeline tested the new recording device. Then she sat down at the kitchen table and began writing invitations. To classmates' parents, neighbors, and to Veronica and Bradley. She added one final line to each invitation. "There will be a special surprise." Outside the window, darkness had fallen and a cold rain began to fall. But inside Madeline's heart, a fire burned brighter than ever before. "We're moving forward," she whispered. "Together." Between mid-October and mid-November, Madeline's daily life began to change visibly. On the surface, she was still the tired night shift cleaner raising her daughter alone, but underneath, her plan was steadily unfolding. "Mom, there were star-shaped carrots in my lunch today," Olivia announced one afternoon after coming home from school. A smile lit up her face, one Madeline hadn't seen in a long time. "Did you like them?" Madeline asked gently. "Yeah." Lisa was jealous, Olivia beamed. Lately, Madeline had started paying attention to even the smallest things. Olivia's lunch, her hairstyle, their little weekend outings, each of these gestures began forming the foundation of their new life together. One weekday evening, Madeline slipped the small recorder into her bag and set out again toward Veronica's house. This time, it wasn't a chance encounter, she was collecting evidence deliberately. She settled onto a bench in a park nearby, from which she could see the salon Veronica visited every Tuesday. Sure enough, at 3 p.m., Veronica emerged from the salon. But she wasn't alone. A younger woman walked beside her, holding hands with a little girl, the same one from the social media photo. From a distance, Madeline watched. Veronica gently patted the girl's hair and said something with a warm smile. They looked just like a real grandmother and granddaughter. The sight brought a dull ache to Madeline's chest, but she pushed the feeling aside and lifted her phone to take a photo. That night, with the recorder hidden in her bag, Madeline took a bold step. She visited Veronica's house. "Oh, what a surprise," Veronica said at the door, her tone feigning astonishment. "I'd like to speak with Bradley," Madeline said calmly. "Sorry, he'll be late from work." "That's fine. I'll wait." Veronica clearly bristled, but stepped aside to let her in. "Would you like some tea?" she asked with a chilly smile. "Thank you." While waiting in the living room, Madeline quietly took in her surroundings. Family photos covered the walls. Among them were pictures of the young girl, Bradley, and Veronica. But not a single photo of Olivia. She's a lovely girl, Madeline said, pointing to one of the framed pictures. What's her name? Veronica's expression tightened slightly. Lila. A friend's granddaughter. I see, Madeline replied with a soft smile. She takes ballet, doesn't she? Yes. She's very talented. I heard Olivia's starting ballet too. Yes. In the same class as Lila, Veronica said proudly. Being around gifted children will help Olivia grow. Madeline nodded silently. Inside her bag, the recorder was quietly capturing every word. Did you receive the invitation to Olivia's birthday party? Yes, Veronica raised an eyebrow. At school? That's an unusual choice. Thanks to Mr. Frost's kindness, we're holding it alongside an exhibition of Olivia's artwork. That artwork again? Veronica snorted. That teacher is quite persistent. Olivia should be encouraged to develop other talents. And what kind of talents would those be? Grace. Poise. Those things will serve her well in life. Madeline listened to those words as if swallowing something bitter. Does Bradley think so too? Of course. He respects my opinions, Veronica replied smugly. In fact, he's seriously considering moving in here full-time. I see, Madeline said calmly. What about Olivia? Naturally, she'll be coming with him, Veronica smirked. We're even considering legal action. If Bradley takes custody. I heard there's a child benefit form submitted under this address, Madeline said quietly. Veronica's face froze for a split second. Who told you that? That's not what matters, Madeline stood up. Can you tell Bradley something for me? Olivia wants to see him. She wants him at her birthday party, no matter what. On the way home, Madeline replayed the recording from her bag. Veronica's statements were all there: legal action, custody, and most importantly, her reaction to the topic of child benefits. It would be damning evidence. The following day, during her lunch break, Madeline visited the district school office. She requested a copy of Olivia's residency record. The document confirmed Olivia's address was still registered at Madeline's home. That meant the application was fraudulent, a vital piece of proof. That same weekend, preparations for the school exhibition were underway. Madeline worked with Mr. Frost to finalize the birthday celebration details. This will be the display area, Nathaniel pointed to a corner of the classroom. We'll be centering the decorations around Olivia's artwork. He offered Madeline a kind look. Mrs. Hampton, Olivia's been brighter lately, hasn't she? Yes, Madeline replied, slightly bashful. She's been smiling more at home, too. That's wonderful to hear. Nathaniel looked genuinely relieved. If there's anything else I can do. Actually, Madeline hesitated, then found her resolve. I'd like a few minutes during the second half of the party to speak for Olivia. Nathaniel looked curious, but didn't pry. Of course. Whatever you need. That evening, while shopping at the supermarket, Madeline unexpectedly ran into Bradley. He froze in place, holding a shopping basket, clearly startled. It's been a while, Madeline said, her tone steady. Yeah, it has, Bradley replied awkwardly. Is Olivia doing okay? She is. And she wants to see you. I see, Bradley looked down, guilt in his eyes. I was planning to come back once Mom felt better. Really? Madeline asked softly. You'll be at Olivia's birthday party, right? You promised. Of course, Bradley replied quickly. I got the invitation. What's the surprise? Madeline gave a small smile. You'll see on the day. As they were about to part, Bradley reached out and grabbed Madeline's arm. Listen, Madeline. Mom might be saying a lot of things, but About what? Custody and all that. I never asked for any of it. Madeline stared at him. But you didn't stop her either, did you? Bradley fell silent. If you really care about Olivia, come to her party. Look at her art. With those words, she walked away. On her way home, Madeline's phone rang. It was Veronica. Can you tell me more about the birthday party? Her voice was laced with suspicion. It's a normal children's birthday party, Madeline replied. Cake, decorations, friends, and Olivia's art exhibit. Why are you so obsessed with her drawings? Because that's where her talent lies. Oh. Are you an expert now? Veronica's voice dripped with sarcasm. Ballet has more future. Just look at Lila. In just 6 months. Veronica, Madeline interrupted firmly but calmly. Olivia is Olivia. She's not Lila. There was silence on the other end of the line. In any case, Madeline continued. Please come to the party. And bring Bradley. As November began, the plan took more defined shape. Madeline purchased a professional art set for Olivia's birthday. She had been saving little by little each week. One night, after Olivia had fallen asleep, Madeline sat at the kitchen table, spreading out her collection of evidence. Audio recordings, photographs, copies of benefit applications, and her handwritten notebook detailing events and emotions like a journal. As she reviewed each piece, she realized these weren't just records. Presented right, they could convince a family law attorney. She picked up her smartphone and backed up the data. Then saved copies to a small USB drive. Better safe than sorry, she whispered. A week before the party, Madeline met with Mr. Frost for a final check-in. Everything's on track, he said with a smile. Olivia's artwork will be the centerpiece. She really is incredibly talented. Thanks to you, Madeline said, gratitude filling her voice. No, it's her own talent, Nathaniel replied sincerely. But you're the one who brought it out, Mrs. Hampton. That evening, after returning home, Madeline received a message from Bradley. Mom's worried about the birthday party. Are you planning some kind of surprise? Madeline smiled as she typed her reply. It's just a birthday party. But it's a special day, so a little something special isn't so strange, is it? Like what, exactly? You'll see. Madeline, if you're planning something weird. Weird? Madeline replied. Is telling the truth weird to you? There was no response. That night, Madeline sat by the window, gazing up at the full moon. Her heart was surprisingly calm. There was no fear, no anger, only clarity and the quiet certainty that she would win this battle. The day before the party, Madeline finalized the last preparations. She decorated the classroom with Olivia and confirmed the list of invited children. Are you excited for tomorrow? Madeline asked. Yes. Olivia's eyes sparkled. Will Daddy come? Of course, Madeline smiled. He promised. That night, Madeline sent out one more email. It was addressed to the teacher, the parents, and to Bradley and Veronica. During Olivia's birthday party tomorrow, we will have a special presentation. Please look forward to it. Veronica replied almost instantly. What kind of presentation? Madeline quietly chuckled and powered off her phone. Tomorrow would be a day to remember. Late November. The morning sun spilled through the window as Madeline rose early to prepare for the day. On the living room table sat a USB drive, a folder of documents, and a small audio recorder, neatly arranged. Mommy. It's my birthday today. Olivia bounced into the room, full of childish excitement. Madeline smiled warmly and pulled her into a hug. Happy birthday, my precious girl, she said. Today is a very special day, just for you. Breakfast was a special treat, heart-shaped pancakes made with love. Madeline tied Olivia's hair with a ribbon just like the one in the girl she often drew. Her hands trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from the exhilaration of reaching this day. "When is Daddy coming?" Olivia asked with innocent anticipation. "You'll see him at the party," Madeline replied. "You're excited, aren't you?" "Yeah. But," Olivia paused, a slight frown creasing her forehead. "It doesn't feel like a regular party today." "I don't know why." Madeline looked at her daughter with mild surprise, then smiled softly. "You're perceptive. But it's okay, today is a celebration of something really important." "Important?" "That it's okay to be who you are. Your drawings, your dreams, everything." "Then, will everyone see my pictures?" "Of course," Madeline whispered. "They'll see them. With their whole hearts." At 2 p.m., Olivia's classroom had transformed into a bright celebration space. Colorful balloons and decorations lined the walls. In one corner stood Olivia's art gallery, with her drawings neatly and beautifully displayed. Mr. Frost assisted with the final touches, offering Madeline a calming smile now and then. "Are you nervous?" he asked quietly. "A little," Madeline admitted. "But there's no turning back now." "You have my support," he said sincerely. "Olivia deserves to grow up in truth, but we'll guide the kids to another room when the time comes, just for a few minutes." "Yes, please. Just a moment." They'll be back in time for cake. By 2:30, guests began arriving. Children with presents, parents with cheerful greetings, the room filled with laughter. But Madeline's gaze never strayed far from the entrance. "He's not here yet?" Olivia asked in a small voice. She smiled, but her eyes betrayed her worry. "Let's wait just a little longer," Madeline said gently. "He promised. He'll come." Olivia nodded and stood in front of her displayed artwork. Then she murmured softly, "Do you think I'm smiling like the girl in my picture today?" Madeline placed a tender hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Your smile is real, sweetheart. Always." At 3:15 p.m., 45 minutes into the party, the classroom door opened. Bradley and Veronica appeared, their faces tight with tension, eyes scanning the room cautiously. "Daddy." Olivia ran to him with a bright smile, her eyes glowing with joy and a trace of relief. "Happy birthday," Bradley said with a stiff smile, holding out a small package. "This is for you."
Yay!
Olivia accepted it eagerly, but the moment she opened it, her expression froze for a second. Inside was a plastic keychain shaped like ballet slippers. "Just like the one Lila uses," Veronica said proudly. "You can use it once you start ballet." Olivia kept the smile on her lips but glanced over at Madeline. In her eyes was a silent question, "Am I supposed to say I like this?" "Daddy, come look at my drawings." She quickly recovered, pulling Bradley toward the art display. "My teacher made this special for me." Bradley exchanged a glance with Veronica before letting Olivia guide him to the exhibit, his steps heavy. There was something in Olivia's pure trust that seemed to weigh on him. Madeline watched from a distance, her gaze steady. "Now's the moment." She gave a subtle nod to Nathaniel. He clapped his hands gently, stepping to the front of the room. "Everyone, may I have your attention please?" His calm voice carried across the room. "We're about to begin a short presentation in celebration of Olivia's birthday and her art exhibit. Parents and guests, we ask that the children join the teachers in the next room to get ready for cake." The children hesitated, murmurs rising, but gradually followed Nathaniel out of the classroom. Olivia looked back, her eyes seeking reassurance. Madeline gave her a warm smile and nodded. "It's okay. Your favorite cake is waiting for you." Olivia nodded in return, taking one last look at her displayed drawing before stepping out of the room. "Guests, please take your seats if you haven't already," Nathaniel said gently. "We'd like to share something special in honor of Olivia's birthday." Only a few parents and guests remained in the room, along with Bradley and Veronica. The children were now gone, and a hush settled over the space. "Now, we invite Olivia's mother, Madeline Hampton, to say a few words." Nathaniel stepped aside and gave Madeline an encouraging look. Madeline took a deep breath and stood at the front of the classroom, holding a small USB drive in her hand. Before her, Olivia's vibrant drawings lined the walls. "Thank you all for coming today to celebrate Olivia's birthday." Her voice was calm but filled with firm conviction. "And especially to Mr. Frost, thank you for seeing what lies inside my daughter." She glanced at a drawing of a girl who looked like Olivia and offered a soft smile. "If you look at these drawings, you'll understand. My daughter carries countless stories and emotions inside her, and she has the power to express them." Madeline paused for a moment and lowered her voice slightly. "But recently, Olivia's life has become complicated." A hush settled over the room, heavy and expectant. "My husband, Bradley, left home, claiming it was to care for his mother. I respected that. But that wasn't the truth." A ripple of murmurs stirred across the classroom. Madeline gave Nathaniel a quiet signal. On the screen at the back of the room, an image from Veronica's social media account appeared. This was posted a few days ago. #family, #fresh start, but the girl in this photo is not Olivia. The image showed Veronica, Bradley, and a smiling girl who looked eerily like Olivia, but was clearly someone else. The day before Olivia's birthday, I happened upon this post. And this is the conversation that followed. Madeline inserted the USB into the laptop. Her expression held no anger, only quiet determination tinged with sorrow. The recorded conversation between Veronica and Bradley began to play softly in the room. At first, the audience looked skeptical, but as the voices continued, the air grew still and cold. "She doesn't look anything like you." "You think so?" "I thought her eyes were similar." "Her eyes? Please. Honestly, is Olivia even really your child?" Silence. The room held its breath. "But Sophia, she's a beautiful girl." "Sophia? You're doing it again. Her name is Olivia. She's not that girl from your failed first marriage." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Bradley's face drained of color as his eyes darted around. Veronica stood abruptly, her face twisted with shock and fury as she felt the weight of the stares around her. "This is edited. Fabricated." Her voice trembled. "It's fake. Bradley, say something." But Bradley said nothing. Madeline calmly took out a folder of documents. "Now, if you'll please take a look at this." She held up an official form at the front of the classroom. "This is a welfare application submitted under Olivia's name. The applicant listed is Veronica Hampton. And the address wasn't ours. It was hers." A stir swept through the parents. Mr. Frost gave a silent nod, standing as an unspoken assurance of the document's authenticity. "But Olivia has never, not even once, lived anywhere but with me. Not once." Madeline pulled out a second folder. This one contained a photograph of a girl clearly not Olivia. "This is Sophia, Bradley's daughter from a previous marriage. They now live in California. And this is the Sophia he mentioned." The room grew even heavier with silence. "To forget your daughter's birthday. To call another child your family. To confuse the past and the present." Her voice held no anger. Only a quiet, unwavering strength. "No matter how fine a suit you wear. No matter how often you speak at a school board meeting, if you've forgotten what truly matters as a person. She paused, took a breath, and added one final line. Then I believe you no longer have the right to stand beside my daughter. The classroom fell into absolute silence. Parents sat frozen, unable to hide their confusion and shock, holding their breath for Madeline's next words. Why would you do this? Bradley's voice came hoarsely, as if torn from his throat. Madeline slowly turned toward him, and with steady, deliberate clarity, she spoke. Because I want Olivia to grow up in truth. So she never measures her worth by someone else's words. So she never lets anyone diminish her gift. Her eyes drifted to Olivia's drawing displayed in the corner of the room. And for the first time, it felt like the girl in that picture was finally standing in the sun. Most of all, because we must move forward. Silence returned to the classroom. Veronica stood up stiffly, her voice sharp like a hiss. This is a family matter. Airing it out like this, in front of everyone, shameful. But before her words could settle, all eyes turned sharply toward her. The atmosphere shifted. One parent shook their head gently, whispering. Unbelievable, she lectured about family dignity at the school board. Another mother glanced sideways and murmured to the parent beside her. So the ballet lessons weren't for talent, just vanity. Someone raised their phone quietly, capturing a photo, then opened a messaging app. The person next to them peeked and whispered. She's stepping down from the PTA, right? Veronica's face stiffened. She tried to stand tall, but the aura of a refined matron was gone. Her hand clenched her designer bag tightly, trembling slightly. Bradley, disoriented, stepped toward Madeline. Listen, this is a misunderstanding. He said quickly, almost under his breath. I care about Olivia. You love her? Madeline asked, steady and unflinching. Then why did you tear up her drawing? Why did you walk out and leave her behind? Bradley had no answer. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. His eyes darted away. Was it your mother again? Madeline let out a soft, humorless laugh. But her gaze was crystalline and cold. When will you finally live your own life? You've hidden behind her shadow for so long. You couldn't even see your daughters. And still, you pretend to be a father? Bradley's shoulders slumped ever so slightly. Just then, someone gently opened the classroom door. Outside, cake, balloons, and a room full of children waited. Olivia stood among them, her hands clasped in anticipation. In the middle of the tension, Nathaniel stepped forward. His voice was calm, gentle. Now then, shall we move on to cake time for the children? Olivia, come on in, sweetheart. The children waiting in the hallway returned to the classroom, bringing with them the soft sound of balloons and the scent of sweets that began to warm the air. Parents gradually followed, though many eyes still lingered on Madeline and those around her. Then, Mr. Nathaniel Frost lifted a small picture frame. Inside was a familiar drawing by Olivia. But something had changed. This was selected as the top piece of the exhibit. He announced, pride glowing in his voice. The artist, Olivia Hampton. Olivia's face lit up. The drawing she had recently finished showed a young girl holding hands with her teacher in the center. But now, a new detail had been added. The girl's other hand was held by a woman, clearly her mother. And together, the three stood beneath a shining sun. But the father was nowhere to be seen. Madeline stared at the drawing, speechless. Olivia had already chosen whom she wanted to walk forward with. It's beautiful, Olivia. Madeline whispered with a trembling smile, emotion rising in her chest. Bradley stood motionless, staring at the picture in silence. For the first time, he truly noticed. He wasn't in it. Veronica flushed with anger and humiliation. her heels clicking sharply as she strode toward the exit. Bradley. We're leaving. But Bradley didn't move. He stepped slightly toward Olivia, hesitating. Happy birthday, Olivia, he said, his voice faint and unsteady. Your drawing, it's beautiful. You really do have a gift. Olivia looked up at him, unsure. She gave a small nod, but her expression carried the weight of someone older than her years. Bradley finally turned to Madeline. Can we try again? Us, as a family? Madeline paused for a moment, then answered, quietly, but with unmistakable clarity. You're still trying to find a family in the past tense. I can only speak of it in the future tense now. And in that one sentence, everything was said. She gently placed her hand on Olivia's shoulder. Then looked toward Mr. Nathaniel Frost. He was smiling, as if he understood everything without a word. A new beginning. Madeline added quietly, but with certainty. Bradley gave Olivia one last glance. But her eyes no longer met his. He turned slowly, his steps heavy, and left the classroom. And when his figure disappeared beyond the door, Madeline finally exhaled, deep and slow. The party resumed. Children laughed as they ate cake and opened presents. And the room filled once more with bright, innocent joy. A few parents quietly approached Madeline, placing gentle hands on her shoulder or offering warm, sincere words. At the end, only Madeline, Olivia, and Nathaniel remained. Thank you, truly, Madeline said softly. I don't know if I could have stood through today without your support. Nathaniel shook his head with quiet grace. No. You stood all along. That's why your daughter could draw so freely. Madeline's eyes shimmered faintly with tears. As they packed up their things, Olivia suddenly asked in a small voice, Mom, is Daddy never coming back? Madeline met her daughter's gaze squarely. If he wants to see you, he can. Anytime. But we're done waiting for someone to come back. We don't live like that anymore. Olivia was silent for a moment, then tilted her head and asked, Are we going to live with Mr. Frost? Madeline couldn't help but smile. That's something we'll see in time. But what matters is that we get to live with people we choose. That's what a real family means, don't you think? Olivia glanced at her painting on the wall. In it, she stood beneath the sun, holding hands with her teacher and her mom. Like the family in my drawing? Madeline nodded. Yes. A family truly connected, just like your painting. As they stepped out of the classroom, the warm light of sunset poured through the windows. The sun was sinking into the western sky. But inside Madeline's heart, a new light had just begun to rise. Mid-December. A snowy Saturday morning. Soft winter light filtered into Madeline and Olivia's new apartment, where small, colorful paintings lined the windowsill. In the corner, a gently swaying Christmas tree stood dressed in delicate decorations. Mom, look! Olivia called from the window. A tiny green sprout had pushed through the soil in a flower pot. It's growing. Madeline smiled gently. Maybe it'll bloom by spring. It had been 3 weeks since they moved. Life was still quiet, still uncertain. But it was beginning to take root. Madeline had found a new job as a hospital clerk. And in the evenings, she and Olivia shared warm dinners at home. At school, Olivia had won an award for her art exhibition. And with it, her confidence began to return. That morning, the doorbell rang. Standing outside was Nathaniel, holding a bright red poinsettia and a small wrapped gift. Good morning. May I come in? He wore the same calm smile. Thank you for coming, Madeline said, stepping back to let him in. In the living room, Olivia was working on a new drawing. On the paper were 3 figures holding hands in the snow. A girl, a woman who looked like her mother, and a man with a kind, gentle smile. "It's beautiful," Nathaniel said, sitting beside her. "It's our new family," Olivia replied without looking up. In the quiet that followed, Madeline and Nathaniel exchanged a glance. They didn't need to speak. On the table lay a sealed envelope from the family court. Inside was the finalization of her divorce from Bradley, and the legal confirmation of full custody of Olivia. Outside the window, snow continued to fall. But this winter no longer felt cold. Madeline stood by the window, gazing at the sky as if remembering Olivia's drawing. This is our real family." Her voice was soft, not meant for anyone in particular. And soon, it disappeared into the snow.